Fatalis, Black Dragon, Supreme Monster, and altogether phenomenal rapper.
You're going to try and fight history? Only history is what you will be. Welcome back to Trade. They were very brave, and now every man, woman, and child lays burnt and ashen in a grave.
Hello, my fellow hunters. You know, it's never a bad time to talk the Black Dragon, specifically, he who all others fear. He who is not just the top of the food chain, but for whom the food chain does not even apply. And, by extension, what's gonna happen in Monster Hunter Wilds, Black Dragonly? Black Dragony? Black Dragon-wise. That was the one, that was the third one, that was definitely the one. And where am I actually going with this? Well, Fatalis, right, is the ceiling. He is the roof, the top, he is the power end of Monster Hunter, the canonically strongest entity in its universe. Now, of course, you know, Crimson Fatalis, old Fatalis, they are even more powerful versions of Fatalis, but they are still versions of Fatalis, and therefore Fatalis, so the nebulous entity Fatalis is he's built different, he's him, and he would win. But should that always be the case? Is it limiting, perhaps, to actually have, from so early on, like literally first gen in Monster Hunter, the ceiling established? If we ever get a monster more powerful than Fatalis, then that changes things quite a bit, right? Because it means that he's not this unstoppable entity, potentially from another dimension, like the Iceborne lawbooks kind of vaguely implied, which kind of scares me, because that's movie territory, and we don't do that here. But in any case, it kind of shakes the entire power balance of the Monster Hunter universe on its head, because in that situation, the king is dead. Long live the king. But is that actually a bad thing that would happen? Is that actually so awful? Because the thing is, I believe it has been too long since we have gotten a new Black Dragon, right? We got Elatrion and Diamorales to join Fatalis in the 3rd gen, and then the 4th and the 5th has kind of not really done that. I think Wilds is the perfect time for it to actually add a 4th Black Dragon to the mix. But at the same time, as I was thinking about it, I was like, well, obviously it has to be weaker than Fatalis, and then this whole kind of concept struck me, because, as I say, we do already have our ceiling. Except, maybe, do we have our ceiling? We can have something equally as powerful as Fatalis, like, for example, Safi'jiiva. It was made, by the dev's own admission, by its own lawbook entries, to be a equal and rival counterpart to Fatalis, the red dragon to his black dragon. And with that in mind, we know that Safi'jiiva is either the joint first or second strongest monster canonically in all of Monster Hunter. More powerful than Diamorales and Elatrion, and that was evidenced by Elatrion coming to burn the Safi'jiiva eggs as a matter of self-preservation. So in that instance, we can have a new joint Fatalis. But that never really caught on, right? When someone asks you, hey, what's the most powerful monster in Monster Hunter, you're probably going to go Fatalis. You're not going to go Fatalis and equally Safi'jiiva. It's sort of just not happened, which to me would imply that if we're ever going to break the Fatalis ceiling, the Fatalis barrier, you would have to show something definitively being stronger than it, not just say, yeah, it's about Fatalis' level, equal to it, even though I personally think that's very cool, and I would love to see even another coloured order of dragons to join the reds and the blacks. But in this instance, what if we ended up getting a cutscene where a literal Fatalis was there, and then it went the way of, I don't know, Sharish, Valder, and Rune, and Nergigante? and Fatalis was knocked aside by this new creature, this new threat. That would be impactful to say the least, would it not? But at the same time, do we start to jump the shark there? Do we jump the Zamtrios? Because we can't keep doing that, because then you end up in Frontier territory, and Frontier is actually quite a big caveat of this whole topic, because technically speaking, there are a couple monsters in Frontier that are stronger than Fatalis. And Isufuroa is one of them, Frontier's Black Dragon, the master of 3 elements at once, the Seraphim, Frozen Seraphim element. He is ruinous, apocalyptic, and absolutely insane. Nutty Cuckoo Bananas level, I will go that far. But also, it's Frontier, where they had to keep pushing and pushing and pushing because it's an MMO, so with every new update they had to essentially go, and now there's this monster, and it's the new, biggest, and best, and most powerful! And don't get me wrong, I love Frontier, I enjoyed playing through it massively, and I think it's so good that Espinas, and therefore potentially anything, has been canonized to the Monster Hunter world. But I would put it to you that I don't think we should take the lore strength of Frontier monsters until they have been put in mainline and given a mainline lore strength to compare to. Because let's be honest, if we did that, then Fatalis might still be the strongest, because the super white Fatalis in Frontier...
White Fatalis full of malice, come for this and you got missed. Frontier extreme, extra dragon lean. I'll make you and break you, disintegrate is my goal. I'll erase your fucking soul, endless death in my wake. Everybody thought they should do what nobody could do when they faced the dragon of fate. Let's get this over with, me, you and you. Quite frankly, I've got better things to do.
With his one-shot disintegration, I mean, yeah, that is an argument to be made that he still stands atop even in that game, especially with how you have to get to him on the Hunter's Road, and the whole thing is so brutally difficult, and I still have PTSD and scars, and I don't want to talk about it, okay? I just don't want to talk about it. Where I sit on the whole Frontier now a thing is that I think everything in Frontier is real, is canon, but the actual state of it, the power of it, the details, the level, are still quite nebulous until the main Monster Hunter team decide what they want and put it in Monster Hunter. Which I think is the nice, happy medium, if I had to say so, but of course, you are free to have your own interpretation. That's one of the most wonderful things about Monster Hunter, with the way it's lore structured, kind of Souls-like little bits and pieces, and you can draw your own conclusions, connect your own dots. But, to get back to the root of this talk then, is where do you stand on a monster greater than Fatalis ever being introduced? I think it's a really interesting thought, and one that could very much go either way. We have now experienced what happens when a monster equal to Fatalis is introduced, but that really didn't shake things up in any kind of crazy way. Savage Eva is awesome, but people still singularly crown Fatalis as king, and that perhaps is unfair, but it is kind of how it's happened. So in the world that we get a new Black Dragon, it's either got to be stronger than Fatalis, which is, whoo, okay, or weaker than Fatalis, which is like, oh, still not quite as good as Fatalis, and everything in between. Now, it should be said that there is a big difference and point to talk here on gameplay difficulty versus lore strength. Because there are encounters, monsters that are much, much harder fights than a monster that is a much easier fight, despite technically being lore-wise a more powerful creature. For example, until Fatalis got his Iceborne fight, his actual hunt in the old games was really quite easy. He was slow, predictable, it wasn't that much of a crazy challenge, and all in all, he was fine, right? Something like Savage Devil Joe, at least to me, was a much harder old world encounter than Fatalis, but obviously Fatalis objectively is much stronger than Devil Joe, even Savage. So there is that kind of factor. I have no doubt that Monster Hunter Wilds will contain encounters. It might take till the title updates if we still get them, I don't see why we wouldn't, to give us one, but I have no doubt it will eventually contain an encounter that is definitively definitively more brutal, difficult, and challenging in a lot of ways than the Iceborne Fatalis encounter. But that doesn't then make that monster, you know, stronger than Fatalis. So that is the other factor of it, because if we do get a new Black Dragon, but it is lore-wise weaker than Fatalis, it probably will have a fight that puts the Fatalis Iceborne fight to shame. Even though that fight is a masterpiece, so saying that would be a spectacular achievement, but you kinda get where I'm going. Basically, we have a hard canonical ceiling on the power of monsters in Monster Hunter, and to break that ceiling, to give us a fight that goes beyond even Fatalis, would imply that we now have to discover something that is even more colossally threatening than this ancient, sentient entity that wiped out kingdoms with a burning hatred of mankind that is the Elder Dragon of Elder Dragons in Fatalis. And perhaps in something like Monster Hunter Wilds, that might be possible. Again, it is Wilds. The implication, the assumption, the vibe is an untamed land. The guild isn't here, no jurisdiction. And in theory, well, anything is possible. What has caused this lightning to be needed? What has made that blasted hole in the mountain in the background? What actually is going on? Maybe there will be some sort of godlike entity that we will be spending lore discussions and discussions in general arguing for a while until the lore book confirms one way or another in like 4 years. Hey, I think that's actually stronger than Fatalis, and that kind of gets me very excited. Bottom line, we need a new Black Dragon, but do you go weaker, stronger, or equal to Fatalis? There is pros and cons of all three options, and is Wilds the time to choose stronger? Let me know what you think, of course. Like if you've enjoyed this little thought exercise, subscribe and hit the bell for more, and until we meet again, consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below. But now then, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.